is on getting grant ready. This presentation was prepared with the idea of supporting organization to prepare to seek grant funding from private foundations in the US. So a lot of the focus will be on how to comply with US regulations, and B, how to cultivate foundations based on their preferences for their grantees. So before we start, I just wanted to share more about who I am. My name is Daphney Jean. I have been a development professional for the past 9 years. 5 of those years was focusing on individual giving, and the past 4 years have been focused on seeking grant funding for nonprofit organizations. I have worked with over 10 organizations, and that has really allowed me to work with nonprofit organizations with different capacity, but also those working on different issues such as global reproductive rights, racial equity, social justice in terms of food security, or just mobilizing resources into communities. So I've been very accomplished in my career. I've helped raise $22 million in grant funding and also supported an individual giving of $10 million over 5 years. And I think for me, the most important thing about seeking funding and even charitable donations is really to build relationships. So we won't focus too much on leveraging relationship, but today the focus will really be in terms of how do you prepare your organization to be successful as you research funding opportunities, and also as you prepare your grant applications. I was hoping to learn a little bit more about the organizations that are here, but however, for our presentation today, I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that part. We can talk more about your organization in more details at the end of the presentation. So I have 3 objectives for today's presentation. The first is to really learn key components of what organizational readiness is. The second is to understand the foundational concepts of grant readiness. And the third is to familiarize yourself with a new grant research framework to help you identify opportunities that are the right fit for your organization. Just to contextualize the presentation, I think it's really important to know that funders are interested in funding nonprofit organizations with sound organizational structures, proper financial oversight, and impactful projects and programs. The reason why I think this is important is really to help set expectation of why funders donate to nonprofit organization. They are interested of seeing impact, and for funders, it looks different. For certain foundation, they are interested in addressing climate change. For others, they are interested in the equitable opportunities that need to exist for women and girls. And for others, they may be interested in economic mobility. And the reason why it's important to keep that at the forefront is to really help you use your time wisely. If you are an organization working on job security, it wouldn't make sense for you to trying to apply to a foundation that's giving money for women and girls initiatives. Um, but all of those funders are looking to fund an organization that's not only working on the issues that they are prioritizing, but they're also looking for organization to be ready in certain capacity. And the first capacity is really your organization's ability to function as a nonprofit organization. So, in order to ensure that your organization is building the internal capacity to secure future grant funding, you should really start by focusing on the internal system of your organization. So that might look like um, having staff or maybe volunteers to help advance your mission. It can also look like structures. How is your nonprofit set up? Do you have an active board of directors that are responsible for stewarding the organization in terms of its fiscal responsibilities, but are also active in raising funds for your organization? And they're also looking for sustainability. Sustainability can mean different things, but in terms of submitting a grant application, funders are looking to see if you are able to continue your mission and how does that look like? Do you have funders? Do you have individual donors? One of the biggest myth about fundraising is that people are looking to donate to you because you need money. Funders are not looking to donate to organizations just because they need money. They are looking to invest in organization that can help them achieve their philanthropic priorities, whether that is in regards to climate change, ensuring that women and girls have access to education, and ensuring that vulnerable communities that have been disinvested have the opportunity to really re-envision what prosperity looks like in terms of business ownership, in terms of job security, etc. So, what does organizational readiness look like? It looks like an active board. It looks like having a strategic plan that ties your mission vision to the next 2 to 3 years. It looks like having staff who have a background or who have capacity in really managing or implementing different initiative. Example, if you have an after school program to support youth, do you have volunteers? Do you have staff who actually have experience working with children? Can they instruct kids in their developmental stages? All of those are important because, again, it ties to the reason why funders are funding you. They want to see impact. They want to know if they provide your organization with $10,000, $25,000, you'll be able to say, hey, we were able to create change, and this is what it looks like. So for an organization working on youth development, maybe you were able to provide children a safe space to be after school. Maybe you were able to help them um, maintain their grades in school, help address absenteeism. Right now in the US, there are many school districts that are struggling to get kids to show up to school, and for funders who are interested in ensuring that children are getting the education that they need to succeed in their adult lives. That's really important. Um, so I think organizational readiness can sound like a broad concept. What does it look like? This checklist look at different aspect of a nonprofit management. So, do you have your governance documents? What does that look like? It's talking about your articles of incorporation. Do you have that from the state that you were created, you were founded? Do you have your IRS determination letter? This is a document that you would get from the US federal government if you are an NGO registered in Haiti. I'm sure there is something that is equivalent to that need. Do you have bylaws, the policies that really govern how your organization operates? Um, and then going to organizational structure, do you have a list of the officers and directors and their roles? Um, do you have resume for each staff member? Do you have bios for your board members? Oftentimes there are board members, but there's really no indication of why that individual is on your board. What do they bring to your board? Those bios help explain that to outsider of your organization. Is there a strategic plan to help external audience members or even a grant reviewer understand how do you plan to really advance your mission in the next 3 to 5 years? So funders can rest assured that if they give you funding for this year, in 3 years, you're not going to like shut down. And then we also have financial materials. Are there policies to discuss how you use funds, how you use charitable contribution within your organization? Is there a budget? As a fundraiser, I'm raising fund for organization, and typically what's really useful is for an organization to truly understand what they need. Do you need $50,000 this year? How do you plan to use this $50,000? Once you are able to answer those questions, it provides clarity to your organization to really help you use your time wisely. It's not just about like, this is what funders need, let me do it. In, it's really to position yourself to have clarity about what your organization is doing. So then you can truly evaluate who is the best funder for you. Um, and then we also have budgets that are specific to programs or an initiative. So maybe you are an organization that's looking to help children who are unable to go to school, afford school tuition. Maybe a program you have is to sponsor children. How many children are you trying to sponsor for the year? How much money do you need for the sponsorship? Once you have those information, it becomes easier to apply for grants because you already know what you need. So um, you can go to a funder and say, this year, my organization is trying to sponsor 35 children in this area. In order for us to sponsor 35 children, we need to raise X amount of money. we have dedicated donors who have been helping us, and they will be able to cover 20% of our budget. However, we still need to raise the remaining 70% to ensure that all of this all of the children who need to go to school can do so. And this is what um, your support will cover. Um, it can be very hard to just ask funders broad for broad mission, for broad ideas. There are many great ideas out there. Unfortunately, very few funders or even donors will just give to your organization just because you have great ideas. Again, um, when it comes to funders, they're not looking to just fund great ideas. They're looking to fund into an organization because that organization has the capacity to do what it says it will. Um, it is also important to have a 990. A 990 is a IRS tax form for nonprofit organization. Um, Based on how much money you make, you may have to just file a postcard or you may have to provide more detailed information. It's always advisable for organization to provide detailed information about their finances within the organization because it helps establish trust between you and funders. Um, the 990 postcard doesn't necessarily go into detail. I know it's easier to complete, but if it's at all possible to fill a more detailed 990 to help people understand how much money you have brought in, how much money you have spent on your initiatives, how much money you have spent on your operational costs and fundraising. It helped people understand how money is being moved within the organization. It helps create trust. When it comes to seeking funds as an NGO, I would say one of the underlying mechanism is trust. People need to trust if they're giving you money, you will use it to properly invest in your mission. And the way that you show that is by being transparent about your finances. Sometimes funders may request audited financial statement, but this is not mandatory for most organizations, as you have to spend at least $750,000 in federal funds. Certain states do require audited financial statements, um, but it depends. This is definitely something you want to review with an accountant or maybe a your board treasurer. And then public facing items. Does your organization have a website, social media accounts? Does it have its mission and vision statement? All of those things are really important because funders definitely want to see a presence. They want to know about your organization, and having a website is the easiest way to do so. I would definitely encourage you to invest in having a website before you even create a social media outcome. Your website really help people understand that you are legitimate. It doesn't have to be super flashy. It doesn't have to have a lot of information, but it should definitely have like an about us section that share your mission, your vision statement. It should have information about how you are advancing your mission. So do you have programs? Do you have projects? If you have those things, what has it look like? What are some of the results from your initiatives? And social media is definitely important. It important because it helps raise your visibility. So many of us spend so much time on social media, so it's a really nice way of even getting the public to be engaged into the work of your nonprofit organization. So these are some common readiness gap that organizations may face. So one of the most common gap is there are no board giving strategy. I work with a lot of startup nonprofit organization, and this seems to be very common. And oftentimes, the reason varies. You may not have a giving strategy that encourage board members to give. You may not have fundraising staff to actually help board members understand how to be an advocate for your a nonprofit organization. That's a red flag for funders because if your board members are not giving or helping raise funds for your organization, it send the message that you are likely struggling with fundraising. Again, fundraising is all about relationships, and your board members will usually have connection to influential people that may be able to make a donation, but there will also be your most trusted advocate to talk about your mission. Um, and for some members, that come easily, but for some members, they really need that practice of understanding of how to talk about your organization. And there are lots of information available online to help board member get comfortable with the idea of a fundraising for the organization, and also helping them understand their responsibility as board members. Um, Another common gap is incomplete staff bios. This can really slow down applications. Just this week, I was working with a nonprofit organization to apply for an opportunity. I was able to complete all of the questions, but the question regarding the staff members who would be in charge of the program. I completed the grant application, but left that question um, incomplete because I just didn't have the information. So imagine like you just found the perfect funding opportunity for your organization and you don't have staff bios. It may delay, it may delay you submitting that application. But if you have those readily available, it doesn't have to be an issue. And outdated strategic plan or not having a strategic plan really signal weak alignment between your mission and your program slash project. Um, and it also signal that leadership may not be focused on advancing the mission. Another gap is not having a website. We spoke a little bit about this earlier, but sometimes organizations have website, but they don't have metrics to actually show the impact of their work. And whenever I talk to nonprofit organizations, especially startup nonprofit organization, or those that haven't raised a lot of money, I always want to stress that you don't need to have somebody doing monitoring and evaluation or learning within your organization. Metric can be easily captured. It can be like the number of participant that you serve through your program or initiative. It can be testimonials from the people you have served to help demonstrate. the impact of your work. Um, a lot of these things, when talking about organizational readiness, it is thing that anybody within your organization, whether they're our staff, whether they're a volunteer, can really take the lead in completing. The only difference is that there may be a lack of knowledge of understanding what is required. And the purpose of this presentation, this session, is really to help you understand what those are. And of course, at the end of the presentation, I will make time to answer any of your questions. Why why do these things matter? Organizational readiness help communicate your internal capacity to manage grants responsibly while signaling to funders that you can also achieve grant outcomes. Why does it matter? Funders look beyond compelling proposals. They assess internal strength to ensure that their funding can have an impact. If you work on your organizational readiness, it means you are ready to focus on the next step of seeking grant funding. Grant readiness. Grant readiness really built on your organizational readiness. While the organization readiness is focusing on the internal capacity to help prepare your organization be ready to manage a grant and be impactful with those grant funding. Grant readiness is really your organization ability to research, apply for, and manage grants with confidence and clarity. So what does that look like? It looks like creating a grants data bank that has details and information about the most requested items from nonprofits who are applying for grants. It is having your EIN number. You get this number in the US once you have registered as a charitable organization. It is often found in your IRS determination letter. You need a needs statement. Again, most nonprofit organizations have a specific mission. And in that mission, it really highlights what are you trying to achieve. You can be an organization that believes that all children should have access to education. But what does that look like? It can look in a lot of different ways. It can look like ensuring that kids are able to complete their primary education. It can look like helping students go to college. Your needs statements really help clarify how you are working to address your mission. It's specific. Um, it's specific. It is addressing a unique problem within a specific region. Your needs statements, it's really about the program or initiative that you are trying to implement to help advance your mission. So an example, for the sponsorship example I have used can look like in Hinch, Haiti, over 1,000 children are unable to attend primary schools. Their parents do not have the funding to send them to school, and most of the quality school in the area, um, uh, most of the school in the area are private schools, and they just don't have the money. That is a need statement that is specific. It tells people where you work. It tells people what people in the community need. It tells people why that problem exists. And it really sets you up to help funder understand the purpose of your program, because your program then is going to be responding to that very specific statement. So once you have your needs statement, you also want to make sure you have an organizational chart that helps people understand who is in charge of the nonprofit organization, who is in the program, who makes up the program staff. Um, and again, this is really helping people to understand your internal capacity to manage the grant. You should have your staff resume readily available, have board biographies. Again, this is extremely important. Your board members are critical to the success of your organization, and funders want to understand what they bring to the organization. You should have your budgets ready. You should have your impact metrics. So maybe you have been running this sponsorship program in Hinge for the past 5 years. What have you achieved? How many students have been sponsored in your program? How many of them have graduated? What are they doing? Those are the information that funders want to um, hear so they can truly understand the potential outcomes of their funding. Again, funders don't give money because you need it. They give money because you can help them achieve their philanthropic goals. You also want to have boiler language or language that your organization um, have that doesn't change often. They include the history of the organization, the mission and vision statement, demographics and need, and geographic location. Um, so I want to go back. So once you have your grants database, a bank, this is where you can easily go get information you need to actually complete a grant application. Most grant application will require to know your origin story. Um, your collaboration. Who else do you partner with? How are you leveraging resources within the community that you are based to be more impactful? Um, it used to be said that Haiti was the country of NGOs. There are many NGOs working. It's not only unique to Haiti. I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations in the US. Funders are looking to see how you are actually partnering with one another. You may work within the same community. You may work on similar issue. There's way you can collaborate with each other to actually help the community be more impactful. Currently, I work with a nonprofit organization that create a food market for low-income immigrants in the Washington, D.C. area. They are great at collaborating with multiple organizations within the organization. I'm talking about organization that's focusing on healthcare, um, organization that's really focusing on preserving Mayan heritage within the area. Um, and when they collaborate with all of these different organizations, the community, the people that they serve really benefit because the people no longer just go to the farmers market and get food. They get to understand the importance of Mayan culture. They get to be connected with hospitals, institutions that's really ensuring that people in the community have access to quality healthcare. When that is really a big barrier for people who live in low income areas. They want to know about money. How much money do your organization have? Do you have donors who are supporting you? Funders don't want to be the only one funding your initiative. They want to know the money that they are giving you will be leveraged. We talk about the audited financials. Again, it is mainly required for federal grants, but it's important to help people understand how money is being used within your organization. Again, it's really to establish trust. People want to believe that once they give money to your organization, it will be used properly. You want people to understand the timeline and work plan of your proposal. Most grants are giving for like 12 months. Very few funders give multi-year grants. They want to understand how giving those time constraint, you'll be able to have an impact. And last but not least, they want to know about your organization experience, past experience, so they can really feel confident that you'll be able to do what you said you will in the grant. So now that we have discussed how to prepare to submit a grant application. We also need to talk about how do you actually find aligned funders? How do you find funding opportunities? I recently learned of the PI framework. It's a framework to help you identify aligned funders. The P stands for proximity. You want to identify funders who align with your mission, values, target population, and interest in your geographic location. Most of you work in Haiti. Proximity for you looks like organizations that are supporting similar entities as you in Haiti. Influence. Do you have connection to the funder? Does anyone within the organization or within your board of directors have a relationship with the funder? Grant seeking can seem very technical because you are researching information to really answer a question. So it can seem like it's just all about writing. But at the end of the day, grant seeking, just like seeking donation from individuals, really rests on relationship. And it's really connected to trust. Can somebody vouch for your art, for the work that your organization is doing? And once you have a connection with a funder, it doesn't have to be a direct. It can just be somebody who introduced you to have a conversation with somebody who works at the foundation. It became a bit easier. Now, does that mean like if you don't currently have any relationship with a funder, you are doomed? No, it does not. Uh, Anybody can start to build relationship with funders. It looks like identifying who work at this foundation. It looks like getting numbers of this private foundation, doing research to understand what they're interested in, and if they're aligned with your mission, values, the work that you do. Maybe it's you calling them to ask them more additional information like, hi, I was able to learn of your organization. I see that you have supported many organizations in Haiti, especially those working with children. We are in an organization that have been working in X area in Haiti for the past 10 years. We are proud to say we have assisted X number of children to graduate primary school. We would love to talk to you to better understand your interest in education in Haiti. You don't want to ask money right away. You really want to build a relationship that's based on mutual alignment. Um, you want to get the opportunity to know what they're really interested in funding, and you really also really want to give them the opportunity to really understand what you are doing. Um, for me, this is extremely important. When people look at the success rate of grant writing, it can be as low as 10%. Um, 10% really includes everybody that's applying to grants. But for the grant professionals, it can look like 30%. That means that 70% of the time when you are submitting a grant application, you are likely not going to be successful. So building relationships with funder is extremely important. Instead of like cold applying to a funder that you have no idea about, it's better for you to take maybe 2, 3 months, sometime 5 months to really understand a funder, then decide if it is the right fit for you to apply. So I think as people discuss um, grant writing, one of the things that get really overlooked is the importance of cultivating relationship with funders. And I think for me, I didn't realize it was out of the norms because for 5 years I worked for a really established nonprofit organization that was really able to create a niche for themselves. They work on global reproductive rights that had existed for at the time I was there for like 55 plus years. They were known they were known to be the go-to organization in analyzing policies concerning funding for family planning. And I had the opportunity to work on the foundation relation team. And each application that we wrote, a funder came to us. And that is a great example of internal capacity. It really demonstrates that the organization was intentional about where they fit in regards to family planning. Um, and for me, while I work at the organization, there were barely any time we just submitting it where we submitted cold application. And I think what I have seen as a consultant, a lot of startup nonprofit organization do realize on cold application, but instead of spending, let's say, anywhere from 100 to 2,000 hours on submitting code application, I would definitely encourage you to spend maybe like 50 or 60 um, hours of that time, like 20 to 30% of that, 20 to 30% of your grant seeking efforts on truly researching and building relationship with funders. Um, the the third part of this framework is evidence. You want to understand who they have funded, who is working on similar initiative as you. Again, we can go back to the sponsorship um, sponsorship example. Are they funding similar organization with similar initiative in Haiti? Do they only fund in Haiti? you really want to look at the evidence behind their stated reasons. Looking at who they have funded, I would say, is even more important than just what they state on their organization. And there's an easy way for you to know who different foundations have supported. Sometimes they list it on their website. They may have a list of grantees. Review the list of grantees. You may also want to use 990. Most all foundations have to complete a 990. And most of the time they can publicly include who they have supported. Um, Sometime organization do try to hide that, and it can be really hard in those situations to really understand. But I would say like those information can be readily available by researching researching press releases, by researching different databases. Um, so in order to tie it all up, grant seeking requires building relationship with funders, seek warm introduction to funders, invite them to events, and send them your impact report, among other things. I also wanted to share this comprehensive readiness checklist. Um, it was created by Grant Station. Grant Station is a database that help nonprofit organization connect to funders. So they typically list different funders who are working in different geographic location, countries, and also share high level information about their giving. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. I am happy to answer if any of your questions at this time.
I do have a couple questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. Honestly, there was the aspect of the pie method that you also
Mhm.
mentioned that this was also my first time hearing about it. But I do understand the concept as far as like influence and evidence for me is like a strong point as far as like, with influence within your board, who knows who, like within your
Mhm.
network, as well as evidence-based, I believe that like monitoring and evaluation comes into play a lot so that you can showcase the work that it is that you're doing. You actually have numbers, tangible numbers to show the impact that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I guess like my question, it's not necessarily a question, but more so from experience for the website, because I
Mm.
will agree with that one.
Yeah.
The website, I remember initially when we started out, like in 2016 or whatnot, we were applying for grants here and there. And there was one particular funder whom we wanted to get funding from. And we kind of have like a good relationship now. Their first
Mhm.
response to us was that our website did not convey what it is that we were telling them that we were
Yeah.
doing, as well as our programming. So it's always best to go back on your website just to make sure, you know, does
Yeah.
everything blend together?
Yeah.
Does it
Yeah.
flow? Like, does it have like, you don't want to give too much information in the sense of
Yeah.
give them a whole bio, whichever one.
Yeah.
But that one definitely plays a role. I appreciate you like pointing that out. I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone else has any question. If you do, you can unmute yourself or raise your hand or drop it in the chat. No?
Yeah, it was a lot of information. So anything that's coming up to you, I'm happy to hear them and answer them, especially if I can clarify anything that I have shared, or maybe you have specific question regarding your own experience seeking funding. I'm happy to answer them. I know it's really tough having a nonprofit and trying to get funding. I don't think any organization has it easier. So this is the time to ask your questions.
Exactly. And I would say like two question maybe some people we're not thinking of, but I know it's always something that like most people would pose because they're not familiar with the sector. Is you
Hmm.
mentioned this like, you can be very hands-on where you're basically applying for grants, but
Hmm.
70% of your grants will not be a positive turnout. Um,
Hmm.
and the question is when it comes to grant makers, a relationship with grant makers, like with nonprofits, as far as like fees versus a flat rate. What is
Hmm.
the ethical process for a nonprofit to know, especially within the Haitian community? What is the ideal type or what is the ethical type within fundraising when it comes to fees or percentage, when it comes to like writing a grant proposal?
Oh, that's a really great question. Um, your question is like you want to understand the ethical responsibility um, of appropriately compensating like consultant for fundraising and grant writing.
Correct.
Okay. So it is important for you to know that both the Association of Fundraising Professionals and Grant Professionals Association um, have it against their ethic codes to pay anyone out out of charitable contributions and out of grant funding. What does that look like? Um, if you are working with a fundraiser to raise individual giving, um, that fundraiser cannot say, I'll I'll fundraise for you and you can just pay me out of what I raise. The reason why that's an issue is like when you are fundraising based on your mission. And nowhere in that mission does it include paying a fundraising professional. So you work with a fundraiser, you raise $30,000. All of that $30,000 should go into your operational funds. So, what is the proper way to pay a fundraiser? You should be paying them based on the services that they are offering you. And the pricing can look really different based on who you're talking because of different reasons. So if you were to get like a fundraising consultant based in Haiti, their price will not mirror what I'm charging because I live in one of the most expensive metropolitan area in the US. So we have to factor the cost of living necessarily. So you want to be very clear about their pricing, and you can ask them question about your pricing. For some, they are charging hourly. For others, they use value-based pricing. So for me, I use value-based pricing. I charge people based on the value that I'm bringing their organization. Um, I used to charge hourly. Hourly can get very complicated. I don't, I, it can be tough trying to help an organization achieve an organization and worrying about the clock all the time. So that's one of the reasons I don't charge hourly anymore. So a lot of time when you're working with consultant, if they are new to consulting, they will be charging hourly. So, similar to how you pay a fundraiser that is working with you to raise money from individuals, it's the same way for compensating a grant writer. Funder is now looking to a funder is now looking to pay your grant writer. You can apply for capacity building grants, and you can share that as part of this grant. We are looking to um, we are looking to hire fundraisers and grant writer to help sustain our organization. That's fine, but that grant writer should still not be getting like a percentage of the money. It should be a specific line item. And again, they should be paid for their services, not a cut of what they bring into your organization.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for
yeah.
that. It came out very beautifully because I don't know if Mr. Oriental have any questions. I do notice like your organization is based in Florida and the name is Tête Coulée pour aider Haïtiens, which is heads together to help Haiti. If you don't mind, maybe like Daphne, if you have the time as well, maybe tell us a little bit about your organization.
Sure. So I own SMJ Consulting, and SMJ Consulting was really created to help community-based organization have access to fundraising and grant writing services. I work for a global NGO for 5 years, and what I realized is that there were a pass through to organization working in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, Central America. And for me, it was just like these entities hold the knowledge to do the work. Why are they like pass-through organization? And by the time you having the money regranting to a community entity in those places, what's happening is that there has already been a decision made of what the fund will support. Um, and it can be very hard for those nonprofit organizations to really have a say as to the direction of the project, how it should be done. So I think for me, it was just like, I think this is a big problem. And I think within the global development field, there seem to have been a move away from funding international NGOs that will just re-grant with the focus on localization. I did leave the global development sector and now I mainly work with community-based organization within the US to help them secure funding. So this is all to say that I am interested in organization really reimagining what prosperity looks like for their communities in terms of workforce development, in terms of economic security and mobility.
Nice. No, Estelle, I'm so sorry. I noticed before you unmuted yourself.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello,
I'm
how
so
are
sorry.
you?
I'm so sorry. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. To be honest with you, I'm so sorry. I have another meeting right now. I cannot talk too much. That's why I asked if I can, if somebody can share that meeting with me. I sent my email already in the chat line. I'm really sorry about that. I forgot if I have another meeting, so that's why I cannot talk too much.
No, no, it's understandable. We actually was closing out. We just wanted to know if you had any questions, just based on what you listened to and what you heard and learned today.
Yeah, I learned a lot, especially about the grants.
Okay. Okay,
All right,
if you have any questions, you can always shoot us an email.
I
The
can do that.
recording will be shared later to today. Daphne, if you don't mind sharing with the presentation with me as well. I'll then
sure.
share it with I guess the group of individuals that sign up.
Yes,
Uh,
that I already sent my email. I already sent my
yes,
email,
you
and
did.
then you can do that. Okay. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
All right,
Okay.
perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. And Daphne will, I guess, like chat on the side or offline.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right,
Thank you, ladies.
bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank
Okay,
you, you
you too.
too.
God bless you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.